All right, welcome back to Inside the Huddle. I want to talk some offense, but more so the offensive coordinator. Let's take a look back at something that the Steelers were lacking in last season, which was putting big points on the board. Now, for comparison, here's a visual of playoff teams last year in the point differential from the regular season. I know it's a lot to take in, so let me go ahead and point out some big factors for you. Out of all of the playoff contenders, the Steelers and Raiders were the only playoff teams with a negative point differential, and both ended up losing in the first round. The Steelers have a 2-digit differential where the top 5 teams had a 3-digit margin. And though you don't see them listed on here, the Steelers recorded 117 fewer points than the 2 Super Bowl contenders. Also, it's worthy enough to mention that the Bengals were the only AFC North team with a positive differential. That all being said, in this increasingly offensive-driven league, can Matt Canada's offense close this gap and put points on the board for the Steelers to be playoff contenders deeper into that playoff picture, Rich?
And I think that's one of the biggest questions. I mean, outside the quarterback competition, and maybe Devin Bush, is Matt Canada an NFL coordinator?
Yeah,
I mean, he did it with Pitt, but that's
one
it,
year.
really,
and
right?
1 year.
That's
well,
it.
I have to bring this up because I love that Matt Canada offense. I love when they put like 77 on Syracuse several years ago with Nate Peterman and Connor and Tyler Boyd. But he went to LSU. That offense failed. And, AJ, what people forget about that, like what everyone forgets is LSU blows him out of there. Here comes, Joe Brady to come in. There's Joe Burrow coming in.
Yeah.
They record the most prolific year of offense in college football history in the toughest conference in college football. So Matt Canada's got 1 year that really looks good on that resume. I do think they're going to be more interesting, more dynamic, but whether that adds up to better remains to be seen. I will say, however, they have a low bar to clear because the Steelers only scored 30 points or more, I believe, one time in one game last year, and they lost that game. That was a team that kept scoring in the teens with regularity. That doesn't get it done in the NFL anymore.
AJ, the offense was awful last year.
It was, and I think this starts again with the run and how other opposing teams are going to react if they're, loading the box. You have to keep them honest, and we were talking about the wide receiver core having so much depth, but if you don't have a run game to offset and keep the defense honest, it's really going to be, canceling out each other, as well as, on the defensive side of the ball, if they're not stopping the run, it doesn't allow our secondary to get turnovers, which, is another element in all this, and being able to score points off turnovers, and also your defense staying on the field for so long. I don't have an accurate account for how many games that the defense stayed on the field incredibly too long last season, but that's all factoring into this point differential.
Yeah, the offense, I can tell you this, was near the very bottom of the league in average drive length. So they weren't staying on the field. Defense was, as AJ alluded to there, getting back on the field way too quickly. They were banged up. They were injured up front. It just created really a perfect storm where everything was going wrong for them and everything. It was kind of a feedback loop. The things that were going wrong were feeding into other things and making them go even worse. So that was a huge, huge problem for them. The offense has to have longer sustained drives this year, even if they don't end in points.
And they have to score points. They have to have a couple games where they score over 30 points.
Well, they got to make plays in the red zone, and that's where you hope that having mobile quarterbacks is what comes in handy. That guys are able to make plays and extend plays the way Roethlisberger did early in his career.
Yeah, you can't rely on your defense, and you can't keep your defense on the field. Hannah?
Yeah, and I mean, guys, these quarterbacks as well, they're a little fresher to the plate in what we're seeing. Mitch Trubisky, Kenny Pickett, and then you have a guy like Mason Rudolph where if he is taking snaps, he's going to be in the hot seat, has some pressure on him. But Matt Canada, you can't bail him out this year with the fact that, hey, Ben Roethlisberger isn't playing your offense. So I think he's on the chopping block. I think he's in the hot seat. And I'm really excited to see how that plays out.